What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a branded Predaplant deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this one for you guys because this deck is an extremely fun deck to play that can summon out all sorts of awesome fusion monsters to help you go in for game. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. So without further ado, let's go and get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of Scorpio. Scorpio is an amazing 3-of in the build and the best normal summon in the entire deck. With the ability, if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a monster from your hand to the graveyard to special summon a Predaplant monster from your deck except another copy of this card. Which this card usually brings out your copy of Darling Cobra, so you can instantly search out a fusion spell from your deck to your hand, but this card has a bunch of really cool targets. We then play 3 copies of Bibelist. Bibelist is really cool as a 3-of as well, as if this card is sent to the graveyard, you get to add a Predaplant monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. Which is an amazing ability that basically if you use this card as a fusion material, you can instantly grab a Predaplant monster, which is super cool. Also, if a monster with a Predacounter is on the field, you can special summon this card from the graveyard, but banish when it leaves the field, which is a great ability to instantly get this card back to your side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Sundew. Sundew is great as a 2-of in the build because this card is basically a walking polymerization. With the ability, monsters with a Predacounter that you use as fusion material are treated as dark. And during your main phase, you can fusion summon 1 dark fusion monster from your X deck using this card on the field and monsters from your hand, field, and or monsters with a Predacounter that your opponent controls as fusion material, which is a crazy powerful ability to help you go in for your fusion plays. We then play a single copy of Darling Cobra. Darling Cobra is an amazing 1-of in the build to summon off your copy of Scorpio, as if this card is special summoned by the effect of a Predaplant monster, you can add a polymerization spell card or a fusion spell from your deck to your hand, and you only see the effect of this card once per duel, which is why we just play a single copy. We then play 3 copies of Buffalicula. This card is extremely powerful as a 3-of in the build because this card is a great pinwheel effect that during your main phase, you can fusion summon a dark fusion monster from your X deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. And this card is a pretty cool monster effect that if this card is sent to the graveyard or added to your X deck face up, because it was used as a fusion material, you can add a face up dark pendulum monster from your X deck back to your hand except another copy of this card, which is usually going to be your copy of Triantis. Triantis is really good as a 1-of in the build, but you only need a single copy of this card. This card has the ability, while this card is in your pendulum zone, if you fusion summon a dark fusion monster, you can use this card in your pendulum zone as a monster on the field as a material for its fusion summon, which is a pretty cool ability. Also, if this card is sent to the graveyard or added to your X deck face up because it was used as a fusion material, you can choose monsters on the field up to the number of monsters you control and place 1 Predacounter on each one, and if you do, any monster that is a level 2 or higher becomes a level 1 as long as they have a Predacounter on them, which is a pretty cool ability that can really mess up your opponent's strategies by level modulating your opponent's cards, which is super cool. We then play 2 copies of Ejim Chain. Ejim Chain is great as a 2-of in build to use with their copies of Ferrite for Patchwork and Polymerization and play a small engine in the deck to help us get to Polymerization. As if this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard to get to add a Ferrite for card from your deck to your hand, which is always going to be your copy of Patchwork that you're adding all of this card, so we can search out an additional copy of Ejim Chain and a Polymerization, which is super cool. We then play 2 copies of Fallen of Albaz. Fallen of Albaz is great to use with their copy of Branded Fusion to step into all sorts of awesome fusion plays, plus this card is basically a walking super polymerization, which is amazing. We then play a single copy of Delight Hexial Fusion. This card is great as a fusion substitute monster to help us step into all sorts of awesome plays, and it's just a really good 1-of in the build to be able to use their copy of Branded Fusion to step into some crazy powerful boss monsters like Red Eye's Dark Dragoon. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's an amazing 3-of in the build to basically just stop the opponent from touching the deck. We then play 3 copies of Molcharmy Fluros. Fluros is definitely a 3-of in the build to basically just dig into the deck for the exact cards that we need. So, that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is an amazing one-of in the build to basically just stop our opponent's hand traps when we're going in for all of our plays. We'll make a single copy of Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion has some amazing targets in the extract that you can bring out to your side of the field, like Millennium Eyes or Strict, to be able to have as an additional copy of Called by the Grave to stop your opponent's hand traps, but this card also has some really cool targets in the extract besides Millennium Eyes that we can bring out. We lay a single copy of Predaplant Fusion. This card is a very interesting one-of in the build that if a Predaplant monster is on the field, you can fusion summon a Dark Fusion monster from your extract using monsters from either player's field as material, including 2 or more Dark monsters that you control, which is a great ability to help us step into some really cool fusion plays. We lay a single copy of Branded in Red. Branded in Red is awesome in this build to basically help us step into our copy of Guardian Chimera, which is just super cool to be able to do. And this card is awesome to be able to set to our side of the field using a copy of Albion. We then play 2 copies of Ferrite for Patchwork. Patchwork is awesome in this deck to let us add an Edgem Chain and a copy of Polymerization from our deck to our hand, getting us a fusion spell and a monster that we can use as fusion material to step into some really cool fusion plays. We then play 2 copies of Polymerization. Polymerization is an amazing card in this deck to basically just help us go in for all of our awesome fusion plays in this deck, plus it's searchable off our copy of Ferrite for Patchwork, and it helps out a lot in this deck. We have it in our graveyard for our copy of Guardian Chimera to get its bonus effect. We then play 2 copies of Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion is definitely a 2-of in the build, and I'm hoping this card goes back to 3 eventually. But this card is awesome to help us step into all sorts of awesome boss monsters like Mirror Jade, or into our copies of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, which is absolutely insane. But this card is so cool in the deck to use a copy of Fallen Volbaz, plus another fusion material from the deck to help us step into some really cool plays. We then play 3 copies of Predapractice. Predapractice is insane because this card lets us special summon a Predaplant monster from our hand, then add a Preda card from your deck to your hand, extend another copy of this card, but also for the rest turn after this card resolves, you cannot special monsters from the extract except for fusion monsters, which is totally fine because that's basically all we're playing. We then play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Poly is definitely a 3-of in the build because we have so many awesome Super Poly targets in the deck, from Starving Venom Fusion Dragon to Mud Dragon, Garua, and even Dracos to Paleo. We just have so many good Super Poly targets in this deck that we can break our opponent's board using this card. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're just going to be playing 1, and that's going to be a single copy of Predaplanting. This card is really cool as a 1-of to let you send a Predaplant monster from your deck to the graveyard, and then place a Preda counter on each face-up monster on the field, and if you do, any of those monsters that are level 2 or higher become level 1 as long as they have a Preda counter on them. And if you fusion summon a dark monster while this card's in the graveyard, you can actually banish this card in the graveyard and then target 1 card on the field and destroy it, which is a pretty powerful effect, and I absolutely love the artwork of this card. It's one of the coolest artworks in the entire game. It's just such a cool card in this deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with a single copy of Mirror Jade. Mirror Jade is great to help us spot move cards off the field, and it's very easy to step into in this build. It's just such a powerful 1-of in this deck. We might see a copy of Lubellion. Lubellion is awesome to be able to make in this build because we can easily summon this card out using Branded Fusion, then simply discard a card to help us fusion summon by putting the materials back into the deck, which is awesome to be able to do. We then play 2 copies of Albion. Albion is great, but you always want to play it at 2 in any build that plays Branded, 1 to summon and 1 to send off your copy of Mirror Jade, because this card is basically a walking Miracle Fusion, and also if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add your hand or set a Branded Spell Trap card directly from your deck, which is always in this deck going to be branded in red, so we can step into our copy of Guardian Chimera during the opponent's turn. We might see a copy of Starving Venom Predapower Fusion Dragon. This card is an insane boss monster and so cool to be able to summon it in this deck, as this card requires a dark fusion monster plus a fusion monster to make this card, and this card is always treated as a Predaplant card. And once per turn, when a card effect is activated, quick effect, you contribute one monster on either field with a Preda counter on it, and if you do, negate the activation. And if this fusion summon card you control is sent to your graveyard by an opponent's card, you can actually target a dark monster in your graveyard and special summon it, which is a great ability. This card actually floats into another card. Then play a single copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. This card is an awesome super poly target and a really cool boss monster in this deck to be able to summon out in this build, as it comes out absolutely massive. Then play a single copy of Trip Overtrum. This card is great to be able to use as a super poly target because it just requires 3 dark monsters on the field to make this card, and this card gains attack equal to the total original attack of all other monsters on the field with Preda counters on them, which is a pretty powerful effect to be able to use because this card gets massive. Also, when your opponent special summons a monster from their X check while you control this fusion summon card, quick effect, you can negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster, and if your opponent controls a monster with a Preda counter on it, you can special summon this card from your graveyard in defense position, which is a pretty cool ability to be able to use just to instantly bring this card back. Let me see a copy of Dracostapelia. Dracostapelia is a great super poly target as well, and this card just places Preda counters on your opponent's cards, and it's a floodgate because it has the ability any card that has a Preda counter on it is negated, which is a pretty cool ability to be able to use if it's your opponent's monster. May I see a copy of Chimera Flasia. This card is really good as a one-of in the build as well, and just such an easy card to be able to summon that helps you spot remove monsters off the field. We may have seen a copy of the level 5 Predaplant Fusion Monster. This card is great to be able to summon off your copy of basically instant fusion because it is a level 5, and it's just super easy to fusion summon into because it just requires 2 Predaplant monsters to make this card. And if this card is fusion summon, you get to add a Predaplant monster or a Predaspeller trap from your deck, graveyard, or face from X check to your hand, and also target a monster that your opponent controls with a Preda counter on it, or a monster that you control, and tribute it, and if you special summon a Predaplant monster from the deck, which is a pretty cool ability. We play a single copy of Garua and a single copy of Mud Dragon. These cards are just the best super poly targets in the entire game, and definitely one each in this build. We play a single copy of Guardian Chimera. Guardian Chimera is amazing to make with your copy of Branded in Red, so you can either get a draw 2 and a pop 1, or a pop 2 and a draw 1, which is amazing to be able to do, and use this card as an interruption against your opponent since we are playing Branded in Red. We play a single copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. This card is ridiculously easy to summon using your copy of Branded Fusion, because all you have to do is activate your copy of Branded Fusion, send your light Hex Seal to the graveyard, plus your copy of Fallen of Albaz to make a copy of Albion, then use Albion to be able to step into your copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, which is so easy to do because your copy of Light Hex Seal Fusion can actually count as the Dark Magician because it's a fusion substitute monster, which is super cool. This card cannot be destroyed by card effects, and neither player can target it with card effects, plus this card is a walking negate, which is amazing. And then I see a copy of Millennium Eyes Restrict. Millennium Eyes Restrict is super cool to be able to play in this build because you can easily summon this card out to your side of the field with your copy of Instant Fusion, and it's a monster negate when it's on your side of the field, so you can essentially use this card as an additional copy of Call by the Grave. Just to stop your opponent's hand traps, we can use your copy of Branded Fusion. So, that's it for the deck, guys. I would enjoy this deck. Is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played a branded Predaplant deck before, you should definitely give this deck a try. It's just absolutely amazing. All the awesome fusion monsters you can make with this deck to be able to help you go in for games. So, that's gonna be this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of notification squad. We'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.